Hello, hello, hello. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but we're here now. We're on this done is better than perfect thing. And in the last video, I promised you better video quality. So hopefully this does that. So far, it looks like it's doing that. So let's go. So one of the things that I want to get better at doing is taking you all behind the scenes of my actual career as a career coach with a what I describe as a double-sided career. I thought, why not, right? You're not the only ones who want promotions and pay rises and all of that good stuff. So I thought I'd start off with a little bit of a recap of December, since that is actually when I returned to work from parental leave, maternity leave. So there are a few things that were really, really interesting. I think the first thing is I felt ready to come back. I'd done quite a few keep in touch days before that date of like, okay, I'm back now. Also, like, best time to return is December, because what I found is that there was a lot of wrapping up the year, planning for the next year. So it's a perfect time when everyone's sort of casting their vision. And so in a way, I didn't really feel left out of what was going on because it was winding down. And it meant that a lot of people had lessons learned from the year, but also lots of stuff that I could get started with alongside everybody at the beginning of the year, if that makes sense. So it was a really, really interesting thing. Now, I won't spend too long on this, but I thought, let me share some of my top tips, because if you're watching this, you're listening to this and you're thinking, okay, I've taken a career break, I need to return. What are the things? First thing I would say is opt out of everything, like as a default by your first day. That should be the way that your organization works, unless, of course, they've got like meet and greets for you to do, like nice stuff, like keeping it light. But ultimately, I had a clear calendar for the whole first day, and that really left me space to opt into stuff according to my capacity. So if I'm honest with you, I probably spent maybe the first hour or two catching up on all hands recordings, catching up on emails, or at least sorting them. Not everything is there for you to reply to immediately. It's more important for me, especially because my first day back was in the office, to figure out where my desk was, figure out where the key departments I collaborate with sit. Heck, I had to figure out how to use the water tap. They upgraded, like, it's no longer a kettle, it's like one of the button things, right? So all of that sort of stuff. But what it then meant is that I then spent the afternoon shadowing meetings as part of my new team, which I'll share more on later, but not for today. But it meant that I could just sit in the meeting, like almost like an intern. Like I just had I didn't even have my laptop. I had like my notebook, and I would sit in the meeting, we'll finish the meeting, and then I'll have my questions and go, okay, what does this abbreviation mean? And is that something that's planned for Q1, etc., etc. No pressure for me to dive in with ideas or I'll do this or I'll do that. Just genuinely getting the lay of the land was really, really important. I want to jump back a little bit to reviewing the inbox, right? Yes, review your inbox, but I want you to trust that folks will tell you the most important things that you should know verbally in a meeting, in a catch up, or they'll put time on your calendar to do so. One of the things that I'll be talking about on lunchtime letter email series is emails and inbox management. There's so much going on and there's so many tools and stuff, but really what we need is a different approach to how we think about emails. And the bottom line is, my belief, spoiler alert, replying to emails are not your job. Unless you work in a support role where replying to those communications is your job, for most folks it's actually not your job. So we need to put it back in its place in order to really achieve maximum productivity in 2026. But like I said, in the email series we'll go into that. So review your inbox, but trust folks will verbally give you the updates. Leave the calendar clear on purpose. The other thing that was really interesting of hitting restart almost as a returner is that I have been given a lot of grace to ramp up slowly. I've been given a lot of grace to familiarize myself, to get used to the systems, get used to my role again, right? And as somebody who is like very high performing, high achieving, go, it has been quite nice for me to take that grace, because usually I wouldn't. Usually I'd be like, oh, fine. Yeah, no, I can get it to you by the end of the week. And it's like, no. Also, the fact though, the way that I did my return is I had quite a bit of annual leave left, so I didn't do a full week. And those of you who've been here for a while know that my full week is actually 4 days anyway. So that made it even easier for me not to drink from the hose pipe and for me to actually say, yeah, I will take that time and trust that if I get inspired, because I did have some of those times and seasons before the Christmas break, if I do a little bit extra and do something a little bit faster, then let's go. But not yet is an acceptable response. I'm just ramping up is an acceptable response. The biggest thing that I did, and this is true for anyone who is like, I think a lot of these tips are true for anyone starting a new role. You don't need to be returning from parental leave, but adjust your SOP, right? If you don't have SOPs, standard operating processes or procedures. I spent my first week giving Asana projects and portfolios a makeover, archiving a bunch of stuff that was no longer relevant, moving a lot of action items from meeting notes that I had and putting dates on them, right? Things like my lunch break being blocked out, that's still in place, right? And I'm having some thoughts and working on some stuff. I'm going to be experimenting with some things around how I schedule and like my scheduling rhythm. So focus time, breaks, when I prefer to have meetings and things like that. I'll be experimenting with that in Q1 for sure, because my role actually involves a lot of meetings as the job, alongside a bunch of deep focus work to deliver projects. So I have to be real about that. And like I said, this is a new role, so that has changed. That wasn't necessarily the case before. So setting up my systems was really, really important. Another thing that I decided to do, because drinking from the hose pipe is what we do around here, is I finally got my Prince 2 certification. So I am a certified project manager. So for those of you, I didn't even say it at the top of the session. So I'm a senior community manager. That is the role. I've been doing community management for years, but throughout my entire career, you can go and have a snoop on LinkedIn if you want to, has been projects. So whether it's events, whether it's real estate, whether it is in tech as a customer success manager, an implementation manager, onboarding manager, all of those things are basically projects. And it's really interesting because when I was in college, I worked for my aunt who was a consultant, and that's where I first learned of Prince 2. And if I'm honest, when I look back, I think I should have done it then, like, or shortly thereafter, or at least when I finished uni or during uni, because it is so, like, it was almost creepy how familiar everything was to me. Like, I chose to do it like with classroom based teaching because I really liked the idea of just going somewhere and getting everything that I need to know and then revising and studying. I kind of knew, especially with the additional phase of my life being a parent and everything all over the place, like I have to just set dates for stuff and leave my house and go to places to do stuff. I had a feeling that if I tried to do it self-paced, I would have dragged it out. But also would have felt a little bit uncertain about my approach. So that was the right decision for me. I did both parts of it in a 4-week time period. And it was the best thing that I could have done. I really feel like I solidified my experience and my competencies and my skills. And we'll talk about this more about upskilling in 2026 and what that looks like and shoring up the things that you know that you can do. Some of you will have heard me say, like, there's nothing wrong with you practicing something that you're talented at. That's what this was for me. It wasn't me exploring new territory or a completely new skill. It was me actually getting that bow and that ribbon, like putting the cherry on top of the cake of something that I've always done my entire career. And also when we think about things like that and we think about future proofing our career, they can become really, really important, right? They open me up to career change if I needed to. They bring a level of sophistication and seriousness to my practice as a community manager. Because if I'm candid with you, one of the things that I've noticed in the industry of community management is that it's getting more and more blended with social media management. And you know, you look at roles where there are roles and they're standalone or they feed directly into a sort of account management pipeline and things like that. Whereas what I actually do is a lot more program management. It's a lot more designing initiatives and delivering things. Yes, there is event manager included in it, but it's employee engagement at its core. And I don't think that that's what comes to mind when people think of a community manager. And that's both a gift and a curse of that career path. But at this stage, there's nothing like having a child that makes you think, like, what does it look like to future-proof a career in this path? But also, what are some of the skills that I can solidify? And in 2026, I'll be creating a personal development plan. to really look at some of the other skills that I either want to solidify, new territories that I want to step into, or things that I want to gain actual physical experience in. So projects and initiatives and opportunities that I want to expose myself to, both within my day job, but also within my business and consulting. Which brings me really nicely onto the second half of this behind the scenes. So we'll be splitting it half between day job and half between the business. Some of the exciting updates that have sort of been taking place behind the scenes, very, very similar to the day job stuff. I'm upgrading systems. So some of you who have been with me a long time know that if it can be automated, I'm going to automate it so that when we are together on a call or in a session, 100%. We're both 100% there. And yes, that can look like the typical stuff like AI recording tools, transcripts, things like that. But I've recently decided to hop back onto Kajabi for basically a big chunk of my business. So it's going to sit alongside Dubsado. And if you've never heard of any of these tools, I'll link them below. The third tool that I am investing in is Airtable. And when I say investing in, we're paying for, but we're building, folks. We're building. So I'm having the time of my life building this experience, this online experience for my clients that is really both for me, but also for them, everything in one place, booking a session in one place, courses in one place, live calls all in one place, recordings all in one place, session notes all in one place, and really starting to declutter a lot of the things as I go through curriculum, as I go through client tools and stuff like that. So that's been really, really powerful as I think about how I'm going to support one-to-one clients and introduce Goal Getting Society, which actually starts in February. So it's been a while since I've had a group. The last time I had a group was the pandemic. Very different time, very different capacity. But I really, really want to have these experiences sit side by side, as well as adding in consulting. So consulting is still very much taking its shape. You'll probably hear more about that in next month's behind the scenes because it's still forming and showing itself to be who it wants to be. But those are the three core services that I'll be offering. Will I still be doing talks, panels? Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, love doing all that stuff. But I really feel called to do more about the things that I end up seeing as an individual coach. So when I see as an individual coach somebody who wants to move jobs because the environment's toxic, what can I be doing about stepping into environments like that where there is an appetite and an openness, and using both my coaching skill and experience, but also my employee engagement, my project management, my community management skill to really identify what has gone wrong in the culture or within the team or within the communication to cause this toxicity, and how can we bring this to the forefront and workshop solutions. So I'm really excited to try my best to fix things from the inside as well as the outside, right? Because there's a lot of things that we have to move through, and I've been through them myself. Right? There's lots of environments. There's a lot of disappointments that we find in our career journey that can be avoided simply by having an awareness, education, and willingness, open lines of communication, simple things done right. There's a lot of organizations that do not do simple things right, and then we end up in issues. Like Glassdoor exists for a reason. But I know I'm not the only person that reads Glassdoor and is just hella sad about how certain circumstances come to be. So yeah, want to do something about it, right? Want to do something about it. So that's something that's coming soon. I'll be able to share more once I share it fully. The other thing is clearing out clutter. So I'll touch on a little bit more once. I'll probably do a video about my personal development plan for 2026. Let me know if you want it sooner or whatever. But I've really been refining the spaces that I'm in and where I learn from. And 2026 for me is less about learning from people. It's more about learning skills. So at the moment, I'm in a copywriting program because the AI-ness of everything is getting on my nerves. And I love writing. Like if I wasn't doing what I was doing, like I joke that I'm like a writer masquerading as a career coach and a community manager. And I want to get back in touch with that. I want to get better at articulating what I do, why I do it, answering questions, sharing more of my stories, my experiences, bringing a glimpse into the work that I do with individual and group clients. Like, I just want to upskill in language, like literature and language, right? That's what I want to do. And there's some programs that I've chosen to cancel. So whether they are more focused on business strategy, marketing, and things like that, because I just feel a lot of noise. I am over shouting or feeling like I'm shouting at people. I want to go deeper. And I've said this year after year after year, but this year really looks like me going deeper. So places like this. So if you're listening on the podcast or if you're watching this on YouTube, like, this is where it's at. Expect to see some more long form writing from me. Expect to see a lot more consistency in the lunchtime letters. And they truly be letters, like from a fellow high performer to another professional who is just on their lunch break, trying to recharge before they go back in to do what they need to do. So there's been a lot of decluttering when it comes to how I'm supported as a coach, but also my media diet and things like that. Does it mean we're going to stop watching Housewives? No, that's not what I'm talking about here. But I'm talking about being more conscious about the intake and who I'm learning from and what I'm learning from, and having a goal and a structure, which has always been important, but is even more important now that my time is tighter. Another thing that I've been working on is what I'm describing as commitments lists. So those of you who are my clients, I'm dropping a training in the coaching hub called Empowered Decisions, which is something I've done for years. And commitments list is almost the level above that. I know many of you may have heard of like a mission statement and things like that. And a commitments list is essentially a little bit more of a disjointed version of that. There are many things that I've seen to be true in my practice as a coach that I have, when I've lived in alignment with and existed in alignment with, things have been great. And then I then change things. And then somehow circumstances then bring me back to that commitment. So a good example is long form content. I want to get back to writing. I want to get back to writing with so much of me in it that people reply and we get to know each other, right? I want lunchtime letters to be a community. I want this to be a community, and not like, oh, we slap a label on it so that it like can be sort of thing, but I want it to be a thing where you reply. And then I reply, and then we're having a conversation. Like, I want it to be that. So like one of my commitments is deeper. Like going deeper into things and putting a lot more of my personhood into my work, because it influences it. We're not going to pretend that it doesn't. In the same way that I wouldn't want you to pretend that your career doesn't involve you. So I'll be sharing a little bit more about my commitments list throughout the year as I like hone and solidify them. But for me, it was a big question of like, if I am to create the impact in my business that I want to over the next 5 to 10 years, right? We're coming up to the 8-year mark in January. What are the principles that I want it to stand on, right? What are the things that I want to have committed to and gone, this was part of my secret to success? Right? This was part of the journey. This was one of the principles. This was one of the tenets. This was one of the things that I never bent on. And I think that sits hand in hand with the empowered decisions sort of framework, which I'm happy to do a video on as well. Like, we're at the beginning of the YouTube journey. Folks, let me know what you want. Like, I'm here in service of you. So, yeah, that's it. So I would say, just to recap, December is a lot of systems, it's a lot of processes, and like, needless to say, you've probably noticed like there's been no goal setting, there's been no goal getting. I haven't been in that space for it. I haven't even really entered the reflective phase, if I'm honest with you. But I know that I will, and that's a huge part of the reason why Goal Getting Society doesn't open. It doesn't actually start until February, so it's open now. People can have their onboarding calls. Like, I'm here, I'm online, I'm on duty, folks. But in terms of that goal getting and really casting the vision for the year, I will be doing that alongside folks with Goal Getting Society in February, because I want to take my time. Nothing is running away. Nothing is closed while I plan. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got a strong vision, a strong plan for January, February, March, etc. Like the year's still years, regardless of when I decide to set goals and plan and reflect and all of those things. But I would say overall, like it almost feels like December was spring cleaning and laying the foundations for success, right? What does it look like for me to be a high performer in my job, but also be an amazing coach to my clients and be an amazing mother and friend and wife and all of those things? And like, what are the systems? Because you all know, we're ADHD over here, so we need systems. And systems, like, I don't want you to mistake systems for always meaning a tech tool. Don't get me wrong, I love a tech tool. I will be doing a video on my faves. But I love a tech tool, but sometimes it is a system, like step by step things that you do, routines, processes that really help you keep everything in check. And it's so interesting because I used to think like systems were very restricting. But in many ways, systems for me have brought so much freedom. Like, it's so beautiful to know, like, even stuff that I've experimented with in the past about, like, no meeting Fridays. So much freedom. That requires a system, though. That requires, like, all emails need to be replied to by Wednesday because I don't work Thursdays. Like, all of that sort of stuff has to get put into place for me to then experience the freedom over here because I've been disciplined over here. And discipline is something that, just like consistency, we've been building relationship with, but bear with me. So yeah, foundations, laying foundations, setting up systems, and taking my time has actually been the energy and the theme of this December. That's it. It's behind the scenes. See you next time.